if you're doing public speaking.
Part of
What's
it.
going on, Sid? How are you?
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man. So, I gotta ask, how how many properties do you own today? We'll start there. How many doors?
How many doors? I have 41 doors, 11 properties. It's almost like cheating saying 11. I would say 10 because one building is technically two. So single lien on the property, but
Okay, so 41 doors, 10 properties, all in Nova Scotia
all in Nova Scotia for now. Yeah.
for now. Yeah, yeah. We'll get to that movement. When did you buy your first property?
It was about 5.5 years ago. Um, just before, all the fun stuff and lockdowns. So just before COVID, I think I bought my first one.
Okay, what 41 doors in Nova Scotia is impressive. What made you get into real estate investing?
I think it's one of those things that like I always saw and I just loved it. Even as a kid, I don't know if you're stuck watching TV sometimes and you'd always see those like home shows. And even as a kid, I thought it just made sense. And then as I got older, I played around with the stock market. I thought, I'm a genius. I made a lot of money on one stock and then I'll never forget it because I put quite a bit of money into it. It was just under 20 grand within like probably a week. And I think after waiting 3 months, the numbers went so high and I was so excited that I was like, I'm going to be a day trader for the rest of my life. This is easy, easiest money I've ever made. And I think it was a Friday late afternoon where that business in particular declared a Chapter 11 in the US. And I was like, before I could even hit sell, I was negative $800. And I was just like, I lost over $40,000 in like a snap of a finger. And I was like, okay, I'm not a day trader. I want like physical, I want something I can touch. I want something I can break and something that's going to appreciate over time. And
Right.
that's really what it came down to.
So, okay. Back when you decided to shift into real estate, what was your first deal?
My first deal really was just like going back and forth with my father. We had bought several businesses in the past together, and it's always been like he was always a high risk entrepreneur, ready to risk it all at a moment's notice. Witnessed hundreds of failures, few successes as well. So I really learned some of my like threshold for pain there when it comes to like risking everything.
Yeah.
But really it was just as simple as him and I pooling together $15,000 and we bought a triplex. And you know, $15,000 could be a lot to a lot of folks, especially during these times. But it's like if you really just try to focus on like $500 a month or like get addicted to saving and then you start finding little savings over time, whether it's cutting out Tim Hortons or cutting out fast food or just trying to like pick apart and get to like that first $10,000 in the bank. And I remember 15,000 plus, 3,000 give or take. So it was like $20,000 in total for our first deal. And we did the 5% down, which
Okay.
was, we put it in our name, which was actually a mistake later on. But I would always advise to do anything and everything that you can to get started because
Right.
most investors regret not starting sooner.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay, you nailed down your first deal about 5.5 years ago. Where was the triplex?
So I did start in my hometown, which is Yarmouth. So the bottom in Nova Scotia, there's not a whole lot going on down there. It's a very like fishing community, small town vibes, and I just knew that market. So
Yeah.
it's pretty inexpensive. It's easy to get started. 15,000 down. If you think about it, 5% down. We're not talking like huge six figures here. So
I'm talking about a $300,000 purchase.
even less. I think it was 140,000. Or that one was like 145, give or take.
Okay.
So pretty cheap to get started.
For a
It all
triplex?
changed
Yeah.
about next year. So or the following year, it all changed, of course.
Okay. So when you were buying the first property, what made it a good deal?
Great question. So what I really looked for, and even back then I knew, like just getting into it, eventually I want passive income. So like my whole thought process is I need to retire my father. That was like objective one, that was what I needed to get
Wow.
to. So I needed to figure out how to get to that point. And the only way to get to that point was generate cash flow. So I was like, you know what? Back of the napkin math. Can this generate me $1,000 a month? I don't care about the underwriting. I don't care about all the extra details. I don't want to care about, saving 10% for maintenance or worrying about the roof in 10 years. All I thought about was, can this property make me $1,000 a month net? And the answer was yes. So it was a no-brainer. Um, Luckily in that community, my father's pretty involved and like he's really well known and he's known as like a typical humble, hardworking individual that doesn't like never brags kind of thing, just goes to work and doesn't complain.
Yep.
That goes a long way when it's creating relationships, especially within the community. And he was able to get a good deal, which is part, you know, we did negotiate pretty strong on it.
Okay. So 145 purchase, it's giving you $1,000 a month. A triplex, was it what was that? What was the build like? Was it three two bedrooms, three one bedrooms? Was it 10 occupied? Did you have to flip tenants? Did you need to do renovations? Like how did that first deal really work for you guys to get that $1,000 a month net?
Yeah, one of the units were vacant, and priority one is to like get that going
Yep.
as soon as possible. Speed is the name of the game when it comes to that. But there was a one unit, a three-bedroom unit, and or a one-bedroom unit, sorry, and then a two-bedroom, and market value at that time was pretty low.
Yeah.
So part of that statement of like getting $1,000 a month was also thinking, is the potential there one day? Because some of these folks are paying $500 a month,
I
and
was gonna
some of them in
say,
certain buildings, it's pretty low.
yeah.
So yeah, I had to redo one, and then I was able to generate about 850 a month for that, and right away it was cash flowing um, around was around $1,100 in the end. Probably like 8 months later, we were able to turn it around. We had a tenant leave, and then we flipped that one as well, and then
Yep.
we were able to generate roughly 1,100, which is pretty high in my opinion. We haven't found a deal close to that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing it. Was the strategy buy and hold? Was it a burr? Was it you had to do some renovations to the unit? Like how because I'm thinking like you bought the first triplex. How did that set you up for your next purchase? Like like what in that helped you guys move forward? I obviously the $1,100 a month cash flow after 8 months is everyone listen, you can't find cash flow anymore. Let's just be very clear. so
It's
so
difficult.
it's obviously working for you guys. So how did that help you guys launch into the next purchase?
Yeah. Really, the strategy was like a mix of burr and just a mix of traditional financing because it
Yeah.
was just like, okay, we bought it. Now, the obvious goal is just to wait over time. It's going to build equity for us. But the way we did it was um, everything my father and I do is 50-50. It's always been like that. It always will be for at least a few more years. And then, unfortunately, everything goes to me one way or another. And that's his words, not mine. So
Yeah.
at some point, he'll be fully retired. It'll be all on me. So right now, he's really handy. So the objective was I was working full time and I was making pretty good money in sales. It's not always guaranteed because it's commissionable, similar to yourself. So sometimes you have great months, sometimes not so great. Sometimes you're wondering where food on the table is going to come from. So when it's good, it's good. So I was pooling, as much money as I could every single month. And then my father was as well. And then the cash flow from the building was also going into that pot. So our
Yeah.
objective in our head was to get back to 15,000 as fast as we could under any means necessary. And that's really what our objective was, is just save, 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 save. And then as soon as we find another deal, boom, we'll
Move.
we'll, we'll just go for it.
Okay.
And that's how it worked. Yeah.
How long did it take you guys to get that 15K again?
It happened really fast. It was, I think, it was under 6 months, so probably like 4 months, give or take. So even during the renovations, it just happened that another deal came up that
Okay.
was close. So we were just like, how do we make this work? We just gotta bite the bullet. I think we did dip into some line of credit. Like we did anything and everything to make that deal happen.
Yeah.
And the objective was clear in our heads is that we just want to grow as fast as we can because it'll work itself out later. it was the same strategy. Can we make $1,000 net now, or will it get there within 2 years, give or take? Like, is there a clear path of success there?
Yeah.
And as soon as the answer is yes, we do anything and
You go.
everything.
Right.
Yeah,
No wasting time. If the numbers work, you're on it. Right.
exactly. Yeah.
So the second deal that comes up, you said it kind of just came up. How did that? So what was the second deal, and how quickly was it, and how did it come up for you
It was
guys?
another it was another triplex, and we have a real estate agent in the area that's
Yep.
been in business almost 30 years now. She's also our property manager for some of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so part of it was convincing her that we were serious, because there's always some skepticism there, because it's like everybody wants to do it, but actually doing it is a different thing. So, our intentions were clear from the get-go, and my dad had a very good reputation, to just like, his
Go.
word is his bond.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's my trait too. And I get it honestly. So it's, as soon as that deal came up, she just kind of like poked it in our direction, and we had already seen it on Viewpoint probably. Um, and as soon as we saw it, we're like, okay, maybe that could work. So I started doing the numbers on it, started strategizing around it, how we were going to be able to afford it. And then we just went to her and said, we want it. And she got us in right away, and then we made an offer, I think that like 2 days later. So small
Okay.
town mentality is really easy when you're trying to move quick, because everybody
Yeah.
knows everybody that knows everybody. That's one of
Yeah.
the perks. Definitely.
Yeah. So at what? So you bought your first one 5.5 years ago. What's the timeline between first and second?
I think it was about 6 months. It's
Yeah. So
hard to remember now.
now you're getting into 2020. Now you're getting into COVID. Now you're getting 6 stores in. So now you're making $1,000 a month off of one. You're getting $1,000 off the second. So I just want to make sure I get this right. So you're starting to build this thing with your dad, and you both in agreement 50-50, and your goal is to get him retired. That's your goal. Is that still the same goal today? Or is
I
he
mean, that
retired
goal is
now?
achieved. He
Yeah.
is technically retired. I wouldn't say retired, because I don't. He's the type of person that will never retire. He definitely does what he wants when he wakes up. Is maybe
Okay.
the best way I can say it. So yeah, we achieved that goal long ago actually. So he doesn't have to work, but he still works on the buildings because he's
I
just
bet he does.
handy. He likes doing it. Like he likes. I would just last week, I think he scraped an entire house and we repainted the outside. So like he's always doing something, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know what? For an entrepreneur, that would be what I would call retirement. It's not sitting on your ass with a Mai Tai. I can't do that. Like my wife knows this. Like when we go on vacation, um, if she books us a resort somewhere, there has to be a gym. Has to be. I can't not. And like I need good Wi-Fi. Like I can't. If you want me to like sit down, I have to like earn the sit down. Right?
definitely.
That's just
It
so I
feels good.
right. So I can like when you're like my dad's retired but he's still working. I'm like that's actually ideal. So here's a question: when you started out on this journey, right? The goal was to get him retired. How much you must have had an idea of how much you would need to make from these properties to get him to retire. So what was the target number you were looking for?
It's a challenge there. Um, because the cost of living for him is so low, and when I mean like humbled, like he drives a 20-year-old Ranger,
Yeah.
zero, like he doesn't need a new truck, doesn't want one. So I would say honestly, like $2,000 of passive income, he would have been good to go. We
Okay.
waited a little bit there. Um, yeah, he doesn't need much. Really, my objective was, can we get him rent free?
Okay.
So can he live in one of the properties one day and not have like, that's one of our
Yeah.
biggest expenses. Can his cell phone be covered? Can the car expense be covered? Can everything be covered and then have extra to play
Yeah.
around with? And the answer is it's pretty easy if you have those big purchases covered.
Yeah.
And that was really our intention. So right now he does live in one of the properties.
Okay. How long did it take to accomplish that for you guys? Like 1 year, 2 years, three?
I'd say 3 years. 2 years he could have, 3 years. And don't get me wrong, like he's still definitely working
Yeah.
actively, but it's like it's a choice at this point. So um 2 years we could have achieved it, but I would say like 3.5 comfortably.
Yeah.
Now we're just, yeah, he's more than okay now.
He's just
Yeah,
now you're just growing the business.
it's more about just like what's the next step? Is it, you know, there comes a point where it's actually finding the deals is harder than finding the capital. And, we'll get into this, but that's one of my things right now is learning how to raise capital or private capital for myself. We've only used our own money, and it's getting to the point if we want to like go bigger
Right.
faster, I need private capital, but that's one of the things I'm trying to learn now.
Right. Right. Okay. So I want to fast forward to where we're at today. Right. So today you got 41 doors, 10 properties. What's the passive? I use air quotes here because passive is such a people love saying passive income in real estate. It's not passive. You're always working, you're always managing the money. But how much is your properties generating you and your father per month right now?
Uh, a little over 30 grand,
Okay.
maybe a bit more. Um, so yeah.
That is that net or gross? I'm
That'd be
assuming net.
gross. That'd be
Okay, that's
gross.
gross. So what's the net on the monthly now? So
If I was to do like back of the napkin math, probably like anywhere from 10 to 14,000
okay,
comfortably. And the reason I say back of napkin is now that I'm becoming a little bit more sophisticated, I am starting to track like property
maintenance.
tax, maintenance. I pay a lot in property tax now. So,
Right,
just one
right, right.
building is 30K a year. So you gotta start calculating that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got okay, so we got 41 doors, we've got 10 properties, and you're making 10 to 14K comfortably in passive income, like actual like money in your account or in your father's account. I'm assuming you're both splitting it 50-50, or is it just going in one account?
The best way to say it is it's like the corporation is 50/50, but
Yeah.
all the management side goes to me. So it's
Okay.
like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So what out of the 41 doors, what do you think was your biggest win?
This month really, is we just officially closed on a 20-unit building. So, that, in my opinion, is like what I would consider a level up.
Okay.
It definitely
Yeah,
felt the best.
because that takes you from 2021 to 20 to 41 units. That's your game changer, right?
Exactly. And there's a lot of growth potential there too. So we actually bought it, in my opinion, undervalued. So there's a lot of like improvements we can make on that property big time.
Yeah. Is it in Yarmouth like everything else?
No, that one's a little bit different. We actually bought that in Digby. I will probably never buy a property in Digby ever again. Um, Not because of the location, but they actually pay the highest tax in all of Nova Scotia
Do
for
they?
every for everything. So it's like I see. I don't want to hopefully offend anybody, but basically the way it comes down to is like how you pay your municipal tax or your tax
Yeah.
for like garbage, or
Yeah.
just like your taxes cover the garbage. Well, in
Yeah.
Digby, you pay your property tax, but then garbage is actually separate, and you have to pay over $300 per door just for garbage collection. So it added up quickly, and it's again a small community, so it's like. In the back of my mind, I'm like, no wonder, like it's so small, nobody wants to invest here. But the deal is too good to avoid. Yeah.
Okay. How'd that come across your desk?
Well, I was actually looking at closing on a different building. I kind of have a few in mind. And now that we're, fast forwarding ahead, a lot of people actually come to us, whether it's to give
Okay.
us money or they want to like sell their portfolio to us. And this could be like, we had one pop up not too long ago where they had 12 houses and they're like, hey, maybe we could just sell you all our houses. And then maybe it's just more of like a portfolio grab. So we are starting to like pool equity to see where we stood and like what we could afford and just start to make strategic decisions of where we're at. And I think just one day it popped up on Viewpoint and we're like, I wonder if we could underwrite this deal to make sense for us. And I think within 30 minutes, I was doing calculations, a mix of AI and some estimates because I didn't know Digby that well.
Yeah.
Um, And then I think the next day we went and viewed it. And then 2 days later, we made like a very aggressive offer based on like the numbers that we thought were fair.
Yep.
And we didn't have to negotiate much. So it was a good deal in the end.
You mentioned something that's interesting. you said the business now has shifted from you guys looking for these deals and always being active in terms of where you're finding these deals. So now they're coming to you. So that's a big shift for a real estate investor in any market. At what point did that shift start happening and when did you notice it?
Honestly, I guess if I was to be transparent, probably about 2 years, because when you say like quote unquote, I'm a real estate investor, oh, I have investment properties. If you're not in the industry, you don't really know what that means and you don't really
Right.
care, to be frank.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when, maybe you're living a little bit more comfortably, or you're not so worried about certain things, or you keep buying properties and people are like, wait a sec, what is he doing exactly? And then they start to ask more questions. um, it comes from everywhere. It could be a friend of a friend of a friend, or somebody heard about it, and then maybe somebody's just starting, so they start to look up more about it, and then just ask you questions. I have people in Toronto, and now I actually have people all over the U.S. So if I wanted a deal like within 10 minutes, we could sit down together, and I could text one person, and he would give me 3 deals that week. And it's insane how much easier it is there. So I'll likely transition eventually. I just politically, I don't think I'm there yet to start
Yeah.
transitioning to the
We're
US. So we'll,
we're
we'll
we're
hold
not
off for a bit.
we're not into politics. I'm not touching that with
I'm
a
not
10
doing
foot
that.
pole.
No, not at
So
all.
when I guess what I'm okay, so as you're accumulating, I know we're going back and forth on timelines here, but as you're
That's
accumulating
all
these
right.
properties, you're starting to get the vibe of people coming to you with deals. So in real estate, like for instance, like when people call me, and you and I have talked about this a few times over the years, is like when I get a real estate investor who calls me, and I'm primarily Halifax, HRM, the Valley, the South Shore, and they say they want to buy some real estate. I always say, listen, like we can do your first one, maybe two transactions, but as soon as realtors are involved or you deal with MLS, there's no deals, there's no cash flow. Like if you want to like make it in real estate, investing in Nova Scotia, like it's private, it's dog hunting. It's trying to find these deals and network with the people who own these properties. Like that's how this game really works. So I guess I guess where I'm going is your first two were on MLS. You had a great realtor in your arm with. When did you start moving into private? Because you would have had to start moving into private deals to actually get better cash flowing properties. Because MLS, let's be very clear, it's rare to get a good cash flow deal on MLS.
Yeah. Um, it's funny. My first private deal was actually our third purchase, but it's not technically the business. It would be my personal home. So
Yes.
at the time we were looking, and I was looking with you,
Yeah.
and I was starting to look outside of the HRM, and then all of a sudden, you know, my girlfriend, coworkers, uncle. It's how funny these things happen. They're in a tough spot and they needed to get out of their house, and it was peak COVID, so like prices are out of this world. So I'm like, okay, well, let's go see it. And this place is rough. It still kind of is. I'm still under a renovation. I probably will be forever. But at the time, I think we paid 120K. And this is actually where it clicked for me in real estate too, is that we were able to pay cash. And, you know, I don't know about you, but it wasn't normal for me to have 100K sitting around in cash. And I was like, wait a sec. That was kind of like the proof, I guess you could say, where it was like, Burr exists. It's real. You can do it.
Yeah.
It can increase in value because they're income generating properties. The bank will eventually continue to say yes, which is insane to me as well, which is a different topic. So eventually they just don't say no anymore, which is amazing. But when I bought this place for cash is when it really clicked. So we were able to pay 120K in cash. And then we kind of like borrowed back and forth between the business and personal. And we were able to pay back the business within, 8 months, give or take. So that was kind of when it really, really clicked. And that would technically be my first private deal.
Okay.
Uh, so maybe an interesting way there. Um,
When you say it clicked, where did you get the 120K from? Because like you say it was in your account, but I know what you were doing for work. Like it wasn't like you built that up. Like you got it from some. What lever did you pull, and how did you get that money?
we were able to pull the equity from the first property.
That first
Um,
triplex came through.
that first triplex was estimated. closer to the 300 range. Now,
Okay.
mind you, that's a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill, I would say, is just because obviously the market shifted, everything went crazy, but I was also smart enough at the time not to like over leverage myself to the point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take and try to get 80% LTV. It's like, no, I'm gonna pull as little as I can and I'm gonna take what I need because I know I'll thank myself later.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't want cash on hand. Like if I have too much cash, it means I'm doing something wrong in my opinion. So it's like I need to get rid of it because I need to either buy something or reinvest it
You want
somewhere.
it working for you. You don't want it sitting for depreciation to eat away at. You want that an intangible
Exactly.
asset that only grow up in value. So yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how cash works. I'm the same way. Get it going. I don't want it. I don't want it. My wife and I always argue. She's like, I want a savings account. Like I want money. I don't want anything in savings. Like just put it in properties. Put the money in properties. Let the money grow, and we will access the equities in the properties when we. Yeah, you and we're on the same page. So anyway, so you go to the bank for that. I'm guessing a line of HELOC, home equity line of credit against the first house, or what'd you do?
It was honestly just a full-on refinance because I think at the time we did a 2-year renewal because
Okay.
the rates were a little bit high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, newsflash, the rates went higher, which was okay because at the same time, it's like that cash flowing property was roughly like 1100 to 1200 range.
Yeah.
And even with the refi, it was like 900 to still a potential of getting 1,000.
Okay.
Um, so it was always my goal is like make sure I fit around that 1,000 because if we need to borrow against our pull equity, it'll still be cash flowing several hundreds.
Yeah.
That way it's still paying for itself. And that was always
Right.
like the back of the napkin math for me that just made sense.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So you get the 100K, you get the 120K, you buy your first private deal cash. I remember you come tell me about it, and I
I was like, I'm
remember.
sorry, I can't buy a house for you. Just calling.
and
Yeah,
I was like, you got a wicked deal. Like you can't get that number anywhere. So go do your thing. That's your third deal. So you get all this equity out. How did that set you? Because like the way real estate investing, what you're doing is you're leveraging against your income and your businesses and your houses. So my question would be, you pull out all this equity on the first property to get the third house. You're living in the third house, right?
I
Are
still
you?
live here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you're living in the third house, so that's not an investment property per se. It might be a flipper, but force equity and take the equity out and never and refi and move on. Well, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, at that point, you're pretty high leverage. So how do you move into the fourth deal? Because I'm sure there's a fourth deal now coming along at some point in this story, right? So did you have finance? Like, was the financing getting trickier for you guys to navigate with the lenders for this fourth deal? You know what I mean?
100%. So this is where we were kind of playing back and forth between different banks. Some major brick and mortar, but then also like a credit union, for example. At
Yeah,
some point, the credit union just said, "Hey, it's not us. It's maybe not even you, but you're growing too fast, and we're not comfortable doing this deal." Which was like, I get it, but like in my head, it made sense, and I had a very clear image of what was happening. But what happened with the house that I bought was the value after I put give or take like 60 to 80, maybe 100 into it, and it was worth 360, 400 give or take, which is again just absolutely stupid in my opinion. So in my head, I was like, I'll never take out that full value because I know this house is not worth that. One
yeah,
day it's not going to be worth 400K. It might be 250, 280 give or take. So I'm like, I'm
right.
not going to take too much because I'm just borrowing against myself to hurt myself down the road, but I took that money out again and paid back the business what I took. So at the same time, every single month we're cash flowing. Every single month I'm putting money in. Every single month my dad was putting money in. So the pool just keeps growing and growing.
Okay.
Um, I find a lot of investors get in trouble because everybody's like, aren't you scared of like the markets? Aren't you scared of like, I heard a horror story. I hear tons of horror stories, tenants leaving and trashing the place. And then, what about bankruptcy? Is that like a fear of yours? And I feel like a lot of investors, like once they grow really fast and start seeing a lot of cash coming in, they start spending. They start buying a nice car. They might go on expensive trips and, they
Yeah.
start living the life. And I think the nicest purchase I've made is a Mazda 3. Like, and that's on a lease. So like I'm not spending a penny if I can help it. So like everything goes back. And at some point you want to reward yourself. So, if I go on a vacation or something like that, I do,
Right.
but I don't spend anything above what I actually need.
So
And
you
that's
you
just
keep you're keeping everything in the business. That's your whole motto. I mean, let's be clear. You're buying cash flow properties at $1,000. Is that still your rule? Like you don't buy a property unless you can get $1,000 a door?
except for the 20 unit, yes. But yes, for the most part, it's like a very clean metric. It doesn't happen every time. Like I've settled for 800. I've even settled for as low as 400, knowing how quickly I could get it to 1,000 or close
Right.
to.
Right. So, but your metric is 1,000. That's your rule. Your rule is you buy 1,000 a door, and like however you help yourself justify the purchase. Like it might be 800 a day, but we can flip the tenants really quickly, and that would be 1,000. Or hey, we're buying this at $400 a door, but it is actually worth 1,200. We just have to do a bit of work to it. Like you'll get to that metric, but that's how you build your business. So
Exactly.
I would say that's good for you for being consistent on that, because I think you and I have both seen plenty of real estate investors and investors in general get too excited for a deal that doesn't make any sense, but they just want to buy a property, even though it
Definitely.
doesn't make sense, right? So when you say, it's funny you say things of like, we keep the cash flow in the business, we're not taking money out. Like your principles of your investing journey of cash flow properties, don't take out all the value in the properties, reinvest everything back in the properties or back in the business. Like that's that's how you grow. That's how you sustain growth. Like it's when people get into like the muddy waters of they're buying the Mercedes too early. They're going on the trips too early. They're doing too much
Definitely.
too soon, or they just really think they see a winner. You know what I mean? Like people get caught up in like, I really want this thing, like this. I mean the deal. Some people really get caught up in like the deal of it. So when you say like you're just doing foundation, like you're just keeping good principles, and that's how you built your business. I'm curious because you just mentioned it. If your rule is $1,000 a door,
A
why the
month per
yeah,
property.
yeah. Why the 20 unit in Digby if it didn't make sense?
Well, because it was actually making more. But at full stabilization, like there's some severe under market renters, like
Yeah.
$400 a month, some of them, like it's severely under market value. So my intention is to leave them alone because some of them have been there for 15 years, 10 years. I'm not gonna try to do anything. You know, good for you. The property's still cash flowing. And at the end of the day, if you take care of these folks, which is my true intention is like in my head, it's okay, I have 41 units, how many people is that? And then at the same time, it's like, I like to be fair. I didn't grow up with much. So, like, I just like the idea of taking care of people and making sure they're taken care of. And that's kind of like, I guess one of the reasons I started is like, even just having employees and like taking care of them is such an honor in some sense that like it makes me feel good. So my intention with them is they're severely under market. It's still making money over time, the traditional 5% over and over, of course. Um, but what happens if the market crashes? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows if they can predict that, or they have a pretty good idea it's coming. But if it does happen, those properties are still fine. It doesn't matter if the interest rates shoot up because I already have it calculated that they're fine. They take care of themselves and nobody's leaving that property severely under market value.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so,
you have complete retention on tenants. They're never leaving.
which is bittersweet at some regard because obviously, you want more, but I think it definitely goes down to that same principle. I think one of the properties we bought was almost 9%. Like this is peak COVID. And even at the 9 point, I don't even remember, 6.5 give or take, and it was with a credit union. And we even paid the additional 0.25 at a credit union just because I knew they would say yes at this particular moment. And that property was still cash flowing, but we knew one day the rates would likely go down.
Yeah,
And now that they've gone down, it was like a bonus, monthly
right,
present because now, you're refinancing it 3 years later and 2 years, 3 years later. And it's like a bonus win because it's like I don't know, a pat on the back, if you will, because you
right,
knew it would benefit you later.
right, right. I see what you're saying. here's a question, because you mentioned the horror stories you hear about real estate. You know, are you worried about bad tenants? Are you worried about the market crashing? Give me what's been the hardest challenge in the last 5 years with being in this game? Because I'm sure you've had some shit come up for how many properties you bought.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've had some fun tenants. Um, it's funny because I, I'll share a story, and I don't know how the politically correct way to say this would be, so I'm just gonna go for it. But really, um, we adopted some tenants, some bad characters, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it, especially with the new rules, things like that. We can't just like quote unquote rent evict someone. Like we can't say there's something wrong.
Yeah,
Trust me, I looked because they were really bad characters. Um, However, one particular evening, one of these individuals had the cops called on them several times. I think it was like 5 times in one night.
yeah,
Um, and I did have a property manager on that property, which is nice because it wasn't personally me dealing with a lot of this. But that particular night, we were able to send them an eviction notice because of like the other tenants were genuinely scared.
right.
5-day notice, and they actually left. However, when they did leave, which was actually a miracle in itself because I didn't expect them to actually leave because I thought this was going to be like a long drawn
Yeah.
process. When we got in there, they actually had smashed the toilet and it was smashed probably for some time. And our first water bill after he was gone was $3,600 for the building. And it's every quarter you pay that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a nice surprise. Um, so, that's the cost of doing business in some regard. Like there's risks to everything, but that was probably the worst case scenario. That unit to actually bring up to snuff again was very expensive as well. So it's just like you really do want to do the due diligence. And like you're not just buying the property, you're also buying these tenants as well. But we knew that going in, it was not the most expensive property, but at the end of the day, it's all cleaned up now. All the tenants are good. But it was a quote unquote horror story for sure.
Right, right. So you've seen your things. You had your challenges in this game, as everyone does.
Of course. Yeah.
So now let me. So when you started this whole journey of buying these properties, looking where you are today. Are you now where you want to be? Like, you know what? Did you accomplish what you wanted to do at the start? I know you now. I know that you're obsessed in the game and you're going to keep growing your properties. So, like, when you first had the idea of doing this, have you reached that point yet where you're like you have you quit your day job? Are you now just doing real estate investing full time? Are you making enough money to barely support you and your family because you're not taking out more than you need? You know what I mean? Like, did you reach the goal?
Yeah. I still work full time. So
You're
like
doing
my
it. You
evenings,
hold on. You still work full time.
I do. So that's, part of the kicker. I do all right, but my job is actually I work for a digital banking solution in the US. And I
Okay.
actually meet about 6 to 14 real estate investors that own 11 plus units or greater every single day. So like my calendar is just back to back. And all I do is talk with investors all day, every day. So it's actually almost selfish of me to like keep that job because it's like I get to learn every single day from a different perspective, completely different strategy I've never even thought of. And I get to learn from them too. So and work pays for trips to like bigger pockets or
Yeah.
it pays for conferences and then I get even more experience talking to these folks and it's rewarding in that regard. So in terms of like family business, that's taken care of from the job. I almost said W-2, which is common in the US, but um so family's taken care of. But then I still to this day pool in every single month because that's like my strategy. It's like I don't invest in the stock market right now. I will one day, but like my quote unquote stock market is myself. So it's
Yeah.
just like just keep investing in the business and keep growing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely hit maybe further than I expected, but now that I'm here, it's like you know I want 1,000 units or more. Like I don't want to stop. Um, and I'm young enough to like definitely take that on. So
You're definitely young enough. So
I
okay.
feel
Now,
old, but yeah, but go ahead.
well, that's the war injuries from soccer. Um,
Absolutely.
So now we're getting to the point where we're looking ahead, right? So you just said you want 1,000 doors. Are you still? We've flirted with the idea of U.S. You've mentioned a few times you're doing bigger pockets. I know you presented at bigger pockets, the last bigger pockets conference. Like you're doing more networking. You're talking to way more people in America. So when you start thinking about how do you get up to, like, I'm assuming the next goal for you, you just said 1,000. I'm guessing you want to hit 100 first, because that just seems like if you're trying to bat 1,000, your next tangible point is you're like you want the 100 units. So when you're looking at 100 units or trying to get to that number, where are you looking, and what's the plan you're putting in your head of being like, how do we get to 1,000? I mean, 100. How do you get to, like, is that you can't eat the elephant in a day. You got to take one bite at a time. So how are you looking at to get to 100 units?
Yeah, a couple of angles there. I think at 100 units, I go full time. I
Okay.
don't think I would be able to. I'm almost at capacity already. I probably am over capacity, to be fair. So it's like I still have so much admin going down. By the time I get to 100 units, my real goal at 100 units would be like, I want to personally own those 100 units. I don't want private capital for that. That way, like, business is taken care of. A lot of the time with investors, you'll be like, oh, they have 300 properties, but it's a part of a syndicate or they're
But they
part of a
own
group
5% of
or
them. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, yes, they're still industry experts and things like that, but maybe, um, it's not as great as it seems sometimes. And I think 100 units definitely gets you like a seat at the table, if you will. And like people
Yeah.
will listen to you, which just actually broadens your opportunities. I already have folks that want to invest with me, and I have a feeling it's only going to get, more and more as I keep growing. So my goal,
Right.
100, own them myself, and then I think the 1,000 units will just naturally come from like raising private
Mhm.
capital and just partnering more. I think I'll
Right.
start partnering a lot more at that point.
Are you gonna keep so you want to own the 100 units yourself, or with your dad in the business? You want the business to own 100 units. That's that'd be an impressive feat. I don't know many people who actually outright own 100 units without borrowing or giving away equity. You know what I mean? And like the syndicate idea you mentioned. When I guess my next, I guess what I guess I'll be a little more clear on what the question was though, because I was curious if you're staying in Nova Scotia to hit 100, or you're gonna be looking at other parts of the country, or you're even gonna be looking at America. Because I know now, like, let's be very clear, we all both are know enough about real estate to understand like investing in America is a lot easier. Like capital, like the US dollar is worth more, but buying and investing in real estate is way easier than in America, which is why most real estate investors in Nova Scotia shift to America. So
Definitely.
would you be staying in the would you want to stay in the province for the time being, or like, is it we a marriage of both? Like, what's your idea now for the next step?
Yeah, that's really tough to answer. Um, there's this like argument in your brain where it's like the comfort of home in some sense, where I know the market, I know what I can do, I know it's even a little bit cheaper here still compared to across the country.
Yep.
I don't think I'll be investing in like Toronto or BC anytime soon, just because not only is it so far away, but I don't truly understand the market, and I would want to like dive in and learn it first and then
Yep.
maybe be more comfortable to dive in. Sometimes you just have to jump into things you don't fully understand and go with the punches. But in this case, definitely I'll stay close to home for something. I might actually transition more to the valley sooner than later because it's, creeping closer to the city, where prices are still like a little bit crazy, but they're starting to like be a little bit more reasonable.
Yep.
The other battle is, do I want to be an annoying snowbird that runs away from the snow for 6 months of the year? And if I do that, then yes, I'll probably transition to the
Florida.
US sooner than later.
Yeah.
Florida's, I always thought, I want to own a property in Florida. I want to invest in Florida. But Florida's tricky because there's things that most folks don't think about as like insurance. Like, can you actually get the property insured right now due to, natural disaster? So it's like,
Right.
is that the best place to go, or do you go a little bit, closer to the desert where,
Right.
where it's actually cheaper and all that good stuff? So it's it's tricky. It's tricky.
Y-
Florida's
You
definitely on the
mentioned
radar though.
You mentioned your next big thing is raising private capital, because that's where your next big that's you have to try and raise some money and start making these purchases because you feel like you're tapped out, maybe in your personal income, I guess, and your leverage enough, or no, or you just want to start using outside money.
It's more about getting bigger faster.
Yeah.
So like yes, I have that like personal goal of 100 units on my own, but if I really want to buy something in like Sackville, Halifax, You're gonna have to either, I forget who told me exactly, but it was an influencer uh, prior at one of these events, and they basically said at some point, like, the real estate circle is really, really small near the top. And like at some point you kind of have to like play nice with everybody. And it's better to own a smaller piece of the pie than to like try to just own the pie because you probably won't be able to compete with, 10 people versus one as an
Right.
example.
Right.
And at some point you do want less responsibility and maybe my capital is more of like a lending or maybe just partnering or maybe I'm mentoring or coaching somebody and then helping them along the way. So after 100 units, it's like I do need to learn private capital because once you take on investors, there's a whole new responsibility because investors want their money back. So you need to
Yep.
figure out what's your exit strategy, how are you going to get in, get out, or what is the play? What type of investor do I want to attract to or appeal to? So there's definitely a different animal there that I want to learn more.
Right. And so you said you've got people coming to you now looking to invest in you. Is that both locally and or is that like a myriads of connections, locally, outside the country? So you're now getting people with capital coming to you, basically being like, "Hey man, I see what you're doing. You've rocked up 41 doors, you're cash flowing this amount of money, you're doing all the things right. Here's my money." Is that essentially
It's actually surprising. So you may or may not know, but I'm actually like super shy and like very introverted. So I'm very comfortable in like my bubble.
Yeah,
Now, that also means I'm not very active on social media. I don't necessarily like put myself out there and I don't really reach out too much, but it's all just like if I start talking about real estate, you can't shut me up.
right,
But other than that, like you probably wouldn't hear a word from me outside of soccer. So what happens is I just start talking to a couple people and then especially in work, like I'm meeting so many people through work, but then at these events, I've gone to so many conferences now that just even on LinkedIn alone, just more on a professional sense, is like now I have folks in Toronto that are like, oh, I used to live in Nova Scotia. I'm actually looking at this, I'm looking at that. There's actually a project, a whole suburb being built right now. And they reached out to me for like market insights or curiosity if I'd be interested. And it just happened out of the blue. And then, I never I expected a conversation like that. But when it comes to real estate, you just have to be an open book and open to hear everything and anything because you never know. Like, who knows? Maybe one day I'm like, oh, maybe I just want to be a developer today because now my business is taking care of me. Maybe I
right,
just want to build a house and see how it goes, just for
right.
fun, which is crazy to say during these
Well,
times.
it's funny because like when I got into real estate, I got into it for money. Like anyone does, just like not in the sense of like I wanted a lot of money, but I didn't have a degree, so no formal education, so didn't have any shot of like a real career per se. Got into real estate to have a career, to be able to make a living and have a family and have a house. And the more and more I got into real estate, the more and more I became obsessed with it. In a sense of kind of what you said, where like someone was like, do you think you're ever gonna get bored of real estate?" And I always say, like, I actually look at real estate like a tree. Like there's so many branches you can go in terms of what is real estate. Like I'm in sales right now. Like I run a sales team. I could walk away from sales. I could just hire it out. So my wife's now an agent. I give her some of my business because I'm too busy. So she gets some of the business so I can actually start building the better business. But she wants to get into flipping and she wants to get into renovating properties and she wants to get into burring and she wants to get into this side of the thing. So she's going to go that route. I'm going to probably stay in the sales lane, but there's gonna be a time and place where we might go, okay, we want to pivot to short-term rentals. You know what we're doing with this place. I've been very open about what we're doing. We're wrapping up this year. Um,
Love it.
anyone that's very curious, and I know you are. We bought the house at 230, put in 110, so I'm at 340. Um, we just had our neighbor, our literal direct neighbor. You can see them through that window. Just sold their house for 925. So I'm probably gonna get. I'm hoping to get an appraisal of 600 by end of December, being in January. We're gonna leave this place, rent it out. It's an Airbnb. We're Airbnbing it. All of our numbers say 500, $600 a night. Peak season, 10% vacancy rate. I went high on my vacancy for my numbers on my back of napkin numbers.
Love it.
We're gonna be looking at about 100 gross for 6 months of the year during peak season.
In the Valley, I know it's popular for like co-hosting and things like that. Are
Yeah,
you gonna manage it yourself? And then
we're
are
gonna.
you gonna like also offer that service to other folks in the area?
I think what we're gonna do is the first year we really want to manage it ourselves to learn how the business actually works, and then our plan is to then rent, hire out, and teach people our expectations and the systems we put in place to manage that Airbnb. And then I think naturally you're going to get into it where we're probably going to try and scale that into property management. I would assume that would probably be your next step because let's say as soon as let's just say it works. Right. And I can't say it hasn't worked yet because I'm still in this house. I'm still renovating it. It'll be 4 years in February. I said we'd be done 2 years ago. So it hasn't worked yet. But let's just say it works and the refinance goes great, pull out a bunch of equity. This place generates 6 figures in gross revenue, which if let's just say be very conservative on that, that's an extra 30K. So let's just be very conservative on that. Let's say it works. As soon as I put that out there, that it works and it operates, kind of what you've done, the opportunities are they're gonna start coming to me again. But we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take the money. Our next place, we're staying in the Valley, so we're staying in the Gasbro. We're buying a shithole again. We're gonna do it. We're gonna have the same. We're gonna run the same trick, hopefully quicker than what we've currently done. That would be that's our goal. But I think for the next few years, we're gonna run this gambit. We're gonna run this play, and I think we only want to stay in short term rentals. We don't want to do long term right now. But the reason why I say this at the beginning is because like in real estate, like we can be in sales, we're going to real estate investing, we're going to short-term rentals, we could go long, we could go buy and hold, we could go burr, we could go into development, which my wife has said that she's now looked up resales. So we have to go to the auction in the spring for the Valley to see if we can get like a piece of property for, 5 grand.
Fun.
And
We bought one like that.
have you bought them like that?
Technically, it was our first property. We bought it for $1,500 and we won. And it was brutal. There was fire damage, everything. But it was actually a duplex. And in hindsight, one of my biggest and first mistakes in real estate, we sold it for $5,000. I think 3 months later. I think a year later, it sold for 260. Okay, so we're like, damn, that probably should have been us. And now I can never find a property for 1,500. But we actually just put in an offer on Monday for a quote unquote winter project. So I still look at like single family homes sometimes as like, do I want to fix and flip? Do I want to burr it? Do I just want to rent it and refinance? At this point, I'm like, do I really ever want to sell anything? Right now, my intention is not to sell anything,
Right.
um, unless I just get too busy, and I just can't own like some of the smaller properties anymore. And I feel like that's the only thing that will shut me out of that. But the
Right.
STR market
Yeah.
is interesting. I haven't done it yet. I just feel like because of my introvertedness and like that part of the business, I don't necessarily want to take care of like folks on a daily basis, more so on the long term basis for sure.
Right. I see what you're saying. See, like that's where like we are people. So like when we're like short term, like it's a way more of a host experience, like a guest experience, and we thrive in that. Like our thing is like for us personally, we've talked about long term tenants. It is like the last thing we want to do is long term. We want nothing to do with it. Like what I've said is to my wife is I'll buy long term rental if someone shows up with a stupid deal. Like if someone wants to give me a
Precisely.
loan, you know what I mean? Like if it's gonna cash flow right away and the
Yep.
tenants are good, long standing tenants who pay on time, great. But I'm not in that game. I prefer short-term rentals. I like the idea that quite frankly, like we avoid tenancy. I still control my properties with Airbnb, and I like that idea of just being able to control them because I worry about the bad tenant and I'm like, how do I avoid that? Well, I just don't give them tenancy. So as long as they can't stay in my
That's fair.
house longer than 28 days, they don't get tenancy in the province of Nova Scotia. Great. So if they punch a hole in my wall, I can evict.
Precisely. Or smash
You
the
know what
fence
you know what I mean?
for
So
sure.
I'm getting off track here, but that's what we've been doing. We've talked about this numerous times. I swear to God, I'm gonna get this house done. That's just gonna be. gonna be forever.
I've been saying that for over a year, and I still don't have. I'm not going to show you, but I still don't have trim around my window in my office here.
That was put up like 6 months ago, so
I
I'm
just
with
did
you.
baseboards in one part of the house
Are
yesterday. So like,
are you renovating it yourself?
so I have a couple of advantages there. Girlfriend's brother is like previous home builder, window and doors, just
Okay.
general contractor. My brother's an electrician. My dad's just a general handyman. I'm mechanically useless. Sure, yes, I can demo, I can DIY, I can figure things out, but like, is that my passion? Definitely not. I'm definitely more of like, I don't know, like the financial person where I'll negotiate the deals, I'll figure that out, I'll make sure it makes sense. And then, in terms of like my father and I's partnership, that's where it works really well is like
He's
I'm
the
really
sweat.
distinct.
He's the sweat.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing the work. He scraped the whole house for you guys to paint, man. That's just sweat. Like
Exactly. And we're buying a really like a very cheap house. It's bank owned right now. We offered very low aggressively just to see if we
yeah,
get it, we get it. If we don't, we're not really sad about it. But that's his winter project. He just wants to like fix the
do
whole house.
something.
So it's like,
He just wants to
okay,
do something. Right, right, right.
exactly. And it's like,
So I guess to sum up this conversation, just for my own sake, is like you've built up this business. You've done really well at real estate in the last 5.5 years. You went into a job you love because the last time we talked, you were still in Kia sales,
oh my
car
goodness, yeah,
sales.
that would have been a while ago now.
Yeah,
I've been in like financial, like digital banking for maybe 4 years now, just
yeah.
over. So
So yeah, because we were working together when you bought the house privately, and I remember the
yeah.
phone call being like, "Hey, like I got this wicked deal, Jeff." I'm like, "Go man, go run!" Like I'm never gonna ever hold if I have a buddy that gets a good deal, I will never stand that way ever, ever, ever. Go get your deal. Don't even worry about me. What I would say though is now it kind of sounds like you're playing in the sandbox. Like you're talking about buying a winter project for single family for your dad to do. You've got people coming to you with money looking for good ideas. So the next time a good deal comes your way, you can actually pull outside capital. You're getting opportunities from America. It just sounds like it sounds like you're in a position now where you're well leveraged to kind of go whatever way you want to go, but you just don't know where you're going. Would that make the most sense?
I would say that's fairly accurate. I'll stick with what I know, and then like I'm always on the scout. Like every single day, I'm looking. Whether I'm just sitting there on my phone, I'll just like plug through, look for opportunities. So I know the long-term game. Like that, there's not a whole lot I'm going to teach myself over that. So really, the next goal would be definitely playing around the sandbox, dabble around a little bit, but then eventually just if I quit my job, it would be more about like how do I help others do what I did, and that would be the next like level up in my opinion is like coaching, mentoring. I do have to get active on social media, which I will one of these days, but I won't do that until I'm out of the job maybe.
Okay. So here's last thing before I let you go. My daughter just woke up, so I'm gonna have to run soon. Um, you mentioned that you want to get into coaching and mentoring. Is that where your next plan is? Where you want to help people and maybe give back a little bit?
Definitely, definitely. There's so much room in real estate for everyone. There's literally no capacity. Everybody needs a home. So
Right.
there's all kinds of different strategies as you mentioned, and really I would just want to help people get started. Like that's the hardest part is jumping in. So most
100%.
investors they regret not starting sooner.
Right.
Almost everyone.
So I just want to put this out there. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
we're doing this podcast, it's gonna go out. I think you're going out November 1st, so Saturday. We're recording on October 26th for all you people that want to know. Um, So I'll put this clip up on social, but you're pointing out there that anyone that we know in the network that listens to this podcast or sees the clip like that wants to get into real estate investing or wants to talk to you, you're happy to take a call. You're happy to reach out because that's where you see yourself going. You want to help mentor.
definitely. You never know who you're gonna meet at any point, at any time. So it's like there's actually name drop, but there's a CFO in Halifax that just randomly added me on LinkedIn, and I actually met him through the digital banking. But he actually mentored me on a couple properties too for free, and I
Wow.
offered to pay him money, and he said no, it's all good. He's actually a commercial real estate agent in the area too, and it's like folks like that that are just great in the industry, and it's like happy to, if you have a project and you don't even want an investor, you just want, maybe a second opinion, absolutely happy to help anytime.
Do you know what? I'm going to give this last tidbit because I think this is actually really important. I always hear that people with money, or like people like you hear like when people talk about people with money or who have reached some level of success, they always say like, oh, like they just have money, so like that like maybe they're greedy. I always find it's the exact opposite. When people have reached a level of success, they're so giving with their time. Like if you just ask someone and message someone who you think is in a position that you want to be in your life, and I'm talking to the audience here, I'm sure you'll agree with me though, is it's crazy how much a DM goes because there's a lot of time people just want to help. And it's crazy how giving people are with their time. Like that's one thing that's blown my mind is like I'll have guests on the show who I'm like, you're never gonna respond. But they'll show up, do the show, stay for an hour and a half after chat, and then they'll call me once score. How's business? How are you? How's that going? Like how's life? And I find that so refreshing to be in a world where you don't see much positivity. But I find like with like real estate, particularly like if you have a conversation about real estate, like it opens up so many doors. As I'm sure I'm just going on a tangent now. It's why I love it though.
Even folks with like millions of followers, I met several of those at bigger pockets, and behind the curtains before going on stage, you're just talking to them. And
Yeah,
exactly that. It does get to a point where the goal is to help others, and it's not necessarily about the money anymore. It's just my true level up is like when I wake up in the morning, what is my focus? It's like my health, my
yeah.
family, my health, and make sure that that part's taken care of. And then, what am I gonna do? Sit there all day and do nothing? And I'm very introverted, so if somebody talks to me first, careful what you open up because then I won't stop talking. But I will never reach out to someone first. There's almost a 99.9% chance, unless it's a deal. And that's
Yeah.
the only time.
Yeah. But you're an introvert, man. I get it. Trust me. I'm a super extrovert. I know what I am. But I
All
gotta
good.
go. My daughter
Yes,
is
sir.
up. She is crying. I'm sure yours will be up soon. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. Congratulations on your success. I remember when you didn't have a property. So, congratulations
Happens
to
quick.
you. I'm gonna be calling you in a year for a fall because I'd love to see where you're at in a year, my man. Okay? Of
Definitely, man. Appreciate you having me. Take care.
course. All right. Thanks, Sid. Bye.
Bye.